Kraetzer at the SportsPage restaurant in downtown White Plains, New York for the West Point Football Report. Here with John Chuhran. And John, we're being seen today on our Facebook page, West Point Football Report. We invite everyone to click the page and follow our notes about Army football, and also on Blog Talk Radio being heard across the country. So, John Chuhran, we saw Army have a tough day out at Stanford, but 35-0 was probably a good showing for the defense, disappointment for the offense.
Absolutely. When you really look at it, there were some bright spots to this game. The reality is, in its preceding game right before this, USC, a nationally ranked team, scored only 13 points. So Army scoring 0, well, that's not that different from that. Second off, Army did not allow any big plays by Stanford, so that the fact is that the defense was essentially doing its job. Turnovers were fairly reasonable. The actual fact here was that you get right down to the scoring situation. Army was able to get down in the fourth quarter when A.J. Shur came in the game. They actually were able to move the ball. They were stopped in a goal line stand, so it actually could have been a closer game than it was. There are positives to take from this. I think Army can look at this as a building block. However, the real issue is how badly beaten up were they? We won't know until we see that game Saturday against Wake Forest.
Well, we talked to Coach Munkin at the Tuesday press conference. He said the team took its normal bumps and bruises, you might say, especially playing a big physical team like Stanford, but there were no major injuries that would sideline players out of the starting lineup. So that's a good thing, because last year, as was brought up in the press conference, Army took a number of serious injuries in the game when Stanford played at Michie Stadium. Ray Maples was out, Larry Dixon was hurt, and a number of the defensive players were lost. This game, we look at the stats. I mean, rushing yardage for Army, 198 yards. Stanford had 199, so it was pretty even on that. But the big difference was on passing. Kevin Hogan, the junior quarterback we saw at Michie Stadium last year, had 216 yards. He threw 20 of 28 completions, while Army was limited to 9 yards passing in the game. Angel Santiago struggled with that, as did A.J. Shur when he got a chance to go in. Only 3 of 5. Army tried to run the ball, which is their strength.
Well, Santiago only made 2 passing attempts, which I thought was rather disappointing, considering he was 6 for 6 the preceding week. He completed both of those. So right now, he's the only quarterback in the nation who is a starting quarterback and 100% in passing, but he's only made 8 attempts, and that is going to, I think, to have to change against Wake Forest to see how it goes, because, when we get into the Wake Forest game, we'll see that they're rather suited for the run. They're going to have a more balanced attack in that game.
Yes, A.J. Shur did have a long run, 35 yards. He actually led Army in rushing with 65 yards. Larry Dixon, the big fullback, was limited to 60 yards on 19 carries. A lot of dive plays that really were stopped up the middle by Stanford. And Angel Santiago, 29 yards. Terry Baggett, 28 yards. So no big plays except the one run by Shur late in the game. And so one of the things on defense, Army was very pleased with the play of Jeremy Timpf, the sophomore linebacker, who had 10 tackles on the game. And Andrew King had 7. Stephen Johnson, going in at defensive back, one of the safety positions, had 7.
And it should be pointed out that Josh Jenkins, who was the star from the preceding week with the 2 interceptions, he managed to make 5 tackles and break up 3 passes, so that he also did very well. He's another great sophomore player, and that bodes well for them.
And that had been one of the concerns with Army, really, was the linebackers being very young. The defensive linemen for Army, almost all seniors, Bobby Coe and A.J. Altamala and the players, Eugeni, a senior defensive line, a good experience in the backfield, but they were concerned about playing all new linebackers. But Jeremy Timpf has really been a player that has opened up eyes for Army. Everyone has thought that Andrew King is had a lot of potential, and he's been playing well too, both of the 2 inside linebackers. Joe Drummond on one side, defensive end, played well at a number of big plays, and Stephen Riccardi at the strong side linebacker had 5 tackles. So just getting through a game against a team the caliber of Stanford gives this team some confidence. But the offensive side of the ball really has to kind of get its confidence back. When you get shut out as an offensive team, it doesn't matter who it was, it still is something that's going to take your confidence away. So we'll see how they do against Wake Forest.
Well, Wake Forest certainly has a great opportunity for Army to get back into a winning record, to boost it up to 2-1. So far, it's an interesting situation. In some ways, it's similar to the way it is at Army. Jeff Monken's the new head coach at Army. Dave Clawson is also in his first year as the head coach at Wake Forest. The Demon Deacons are scoring 19 points a game, and they're allowing 20 per game. Right now, their strength seems to be that their defense is limiting rushing teams to just 87 yards per game. They're allowing 215 yards per passing, but Army just doesn't have that strong enough of a game that they're going to get 215 yards. I don't care if they put in either quarterback, either Santiago or Rasher. It's just they're not going to get 215 yards in the air. So the reality is that they're going to have to try and do it on the run. Quarterback John Wolford, he's completed 62 of 110 passes for 645 yards. He's thrown 4 touchdowns, but significantly, he's thrown 6 interceptions. And that's something that I think Army can capitalize on. The fact is that, this is a young quarterback. This is a quarterback who can be forced to make mistakes. Now, in terms of their receiving core, Cam Chuhran leads this team with 15 catches for 171 yards, and Orville Reynolds is the team's top rusher with 38 carries for only 85 yards. Defensively, their strength is Brandon Chubb. He's got 34 tackles, and Ryan Janvion, I guess is how it's pronounced. He's got 32. Markel Lee has a team-best 5 tackles for loss, but 3 different players have recorded interceptions for Wake Forest, so that's one of their strengths. And they're really looking forward to doing that. Now, last week, they're 1-2 right now, the Demon Deacons. Last week, they lost to Utah State, 36-24. The reality is in that game that the rushing game for Wake Forest was non-existent. They rushed 18 times for a net 7 yards. Wolford was sacked 6 times for -2 yards. So, I mean, they against a team that really isn't nationally ranked, they did not do very well at all. The defense looked okay, but they still gave up 331 yards in the air. So, again, there's going to be opportunities here. It's a young team. There's certain changes in it's very freshman and sophomore heavy in terms of this. And so I really think that the linebackers, Josh Jenkins, Steven Johnson, Chris Garnegy, and senior Jeffrey Bacon, these are going to have a very, very good day as a team. I think when we get right down to it, Wake is suffering from the fact that they are all ACC linemen from their defensive line. Nikita Whitlock, he's graduated, as well as their second and third leading tacklers. That's Zach Thompson and Christopher Redding. So right now, this is a team that's young. They'll make mistakes. They're getting a lot of penalties. Their best defender this year is Chubb, the linebacker who's got 34 tackles. We'll see how well they do. But honestly, I think Army's discipline should be the difference. And it's pretty important because, Ken, since Army won that bowl game, the Armed Forces Bowl in 2011, they've only won 1 road game. I mean, that's it. And this is really significant. A great opportunity for them to, A, get winning again, and to instill a new spirit and a new opportunity to try to win.
Well, playing on the road is always difficult. In the bowl year, Army did win 5 games on the road, and since then has really struggled. Part of it is who they played. Part of it is just challenges they've had, especially on defense the last couple of years. So an interesting game, an opportunity for Army to go to have a very competitive game. They're actually favored by a couple points in the game. Now, we have a special guest visiting with us, someone who knows West Point very well, and that is Warren Rosenberg, who is the provost and vice president academic affairs at the College of Westchester, just down the street from where we are here in White Plains. And Warren, your school, the College of Westchester, has a very active program for veterans. And so why don't you just tell us a little bit about the school, and then we'll get into the special programs you have for veterans.
Sure. First, let me say thanks, Ken and John. It's great to be with you here at Bob Hyland SportsPage in White Plains. And I want to thank all of our active duty service members, all of our reservists, and all of those who are veterans for the work that you've done on our behalf. We're greatly appreciative. And it wasn't only the men who had a tough time this weekend at West Point. I was up at the women's rugby game, and they had a tough game against Norwich University. Norwich, I think, is undefeated in the new league. Some very, very big girls. But the ladies played hard, and it was an exciting game. I look forward to being back there in the future. Before I talk about the College of Westchester, let me take us back to 1915, which was a banner year. For those of you with military history backgrounds, you might know that 1915 was the year that the U.S. Coast Guard was founded. It is also the year that the future General and President Dwight David Eisenhower graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, and 1915 is the year that the College of Westchester was founded. So next year, all three of those prestigious organizations and folks are celebrating a centennial. The College of Westchester was founded in 1915 in New Rochelle, New York, as the Westchester Commercial School. And we remain true to that mission of being a career-focused college. College of Westchester is registered and fully accredited to offer baccalaureate and associate level degrees in computer network administration, in digital media, in allied health, in business and accounting, and we're very proud of the thousands and thousands of graduates that have left our institution over the years.
Absolutely, and Warren Rosenberg, the College of Westchester has a very active program for veterans and those taking advantage of the GI Bill. And why don't you tell us a little bit about it and the opportunities for veterans at the College of Westchester?
Sure, Ken. One of the things, Ken, that we're very, very proud of is the fact that we've got 3 badges of distinction with respect to being a college that welcomes members of the military and veterans. We're designated as a military-friendly school, as a yellow ribbon college, and as a service members opportunity college. 3 distinctions that not every college has. Many colleges don't hold any of those. Very few of them hold all 3.
And what are those distinctions that mean?
Sure.
What's the badge?
A military-friendly school represents the top 20% of colleges across the nation who've submitted themselves to examination and have passed muster with respect to their academic credibility and reputation, with their support for military students on campus, with the number or percentage of military students among the student body, by offering credit, college credit for prior military experience, and having the counseling services available that help the students avail themselves of those credits, by having flexible options for study for military members or veterans who may need to relocate or be redeployed, and for their veterans' graduation and placement rates. And that is the military-friendly school designation. The Yellow Ribbon College is something that institutions can voluntarily participate in, and it stems from the post-9/11 GI Bill, serving to lower the cost of a college education for veterans who have at least 36 months of active service duty. And the College of Westchester, as part of the Yellow Ribbon program, offers students a $6,000 reduction in tuition costs for members who qualify. And then the Service Members Opportunity College was created in 1972 by the Department of Defense, and it provides educational opportunities for service members who otherwise might have problems completing a college degree because of frequent relocations, redeployment, or other types of challenges that are unique to members of our armed services and veterans.
I understand you created an advisory committee recently to help veterans. What is that about? How does it work?
You know, there are several things that we do very well to serve veterans, from providing designated admissions counselors, financial aid counselors, academic advisors, career counselors, trained for the special needs of our veteran population. And all of that stems from the direction we take from our military advisory board, which one of my hosts here knows very well because Ken is chair of the College of Westchester's Military Advisory Board. And that body consists of members who represent all of the divisions of the military service, as well as many civic and social organizations that help veterans with things such as housing, employment, counseling services, and some of the challenges that our veterans face after leaving the service.
Okay. Warren Rosenberg, tell us a little bit about how someone can find out more information about the College of Westchester, your website and all.
Absolutely. I'm in a rush, and if what seems like nerves isn't, we're in the middle of a new student orientation. We've got 90 new adult students starting in our evening program, and several of them are actual military veterans, and I need to get back to that after this. But anyone who's interested in the college can go on our website at cw.edu. You can find the admissions link. Under the admissions link, there is a link for military veterans, and one of the things that you can be assured of is that at the College of Westchester, you're going to find an institution where veterans and active and reserve members of the military are welcomed and appreciated.
Okay, Warren Rosenberg, the provost at the College of Westchester and the vice president of academic affairs. Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you're doing to help veterans here in Westchester County.
Thank you, and thank the Sons of the American Legion Radio and all that you guys do.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Warren.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Warren. We're going to be doing a weekly guest, a veteran supporter, a alumnus of West Point, some military authors here on the show as part of our service to help support America's veterans. Now, John, we had a lot of games this weekend. Why don't you take us through? I know you have some thoughts on how Air Force and Navy did.
Absolutely, Ken. Navy had a 35-21 win over Texas State, but the story there was the fact that they had a brand-new quarterback play in the game. I mean, the fact is that quarterback Keenan Reynolds, their star for 2 years right now, he didn't play because he took a helmet to his right knee in the preceding game at Temple, so he was out of the game. Sophomore Tago Smith, I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, it's T-A-G-O, he had a fantastic debut. He's basically a runner. He ran for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he also passed for 85 yards and 2 more TDs, including a 67-yard toss to Jameer Tillman. So this is clearly a successor in waiting for Keenan Reynolds. That team is doing very, very well, and they now are back to a winning record. They're 2-1 now, and the reality is that Navy is playing exceptionally well. So they're looking well, but then again, let's remember who they played. It was Texas State, not the University of Texas, nor Texas Tech. So I mean, it was one of those teams where yes, they should have done well, but it's a great opportunity for Tago Smith to get in, get some experience.
Well, they did hold their own against Ohio State a couple of weeks ago.
They did, but they didn't win. The reality is, though, that they got the win here. They're back to a winning record. They're looking good. Air Force, on the other hand, the Falcons did very well. They won 48-38 over Georgia State. Again, that's not Georgia Tech or Georgia. It's Georgia State.
Not even Georgia Southern.
No, it's not even Georgia Southern. Cale Pearson threw for 2 touchdowns and added 2 scoring runs and led the team. And Jacoby Owens ran for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns as Air Force improved to 2-1. So Air Force also now has done very well. Pearson completed 12 of 15 passes for 224 yards, and he threw passes of 37 and 22 yards to Garrett Brown. So they too have a strong quarterback. This is a difference between Air Force and Navy compared to Army. The other 2 service academies do have quarterbacks who seem to be able to throw a long pass and with great accuracy. They put up some impressive statistics in terms of passing. This is something Army may need to look towards putting in A.J. Schur in the future because it seems Schur has the stronger arm, but time will tell as to how that plays out.
It's also Navy's got a bigger offensive line than the other academies, too. They've always had big centers and big guards that are really important on pass defense.
Absolutely, and this is something that Army has addressed this year, letting the cadets do their military service earlier in the summer, enabling them to put on more weight. As we mentioned in last week's program, Army has added a net 1,400 pounds to its entire squad. That's an average of more than 14 pounds per player. This should bode well, should actually carry them well in terms of being durable for the length of the season.
Okay, and some of Army's opponents during the year, Buffalo lost to Baylor 63-21. The Mid-America Conference had a bad weekend. Stanford, of course, defeated Army 35-0. Wake Forest lost at Utah State 36-24. Yale did not play. They played their first game this weekend. Ball State lost a very surprising game to Indiana State. 27-20. Indiana State went into that game with an RPI of 186. Rice stayed with Texas A&M, I guess, 38-10. I think Rice is going to be a tough game when they come into Michie Stadium. They are a tough, competitive team. Kent State really had a tough time with Ohio State. They got blown out 66-0 at the Big Horseshoe out in Columbus. And they said they took an $850,000 check for that game. But that's a game can ruin your whole season when you lose that badly.
And the reality, though, is that Ohio State is one of the nation's powerhouses. To lose to them, even by a large score, is no major catastrophe, except unless it gets in your players' heads and enables them to get down and to be angry and depressed about the whole experience. It's to be expected to lose to Ohio State when you're a smaller school. The question is, how do you rebound from it?
Well, it's going to be quite a challenge. We're going to see Ball State at Michie Stadium in just a couple of weeks, and that should be an interesting game. Ball State, a team that's been in major bowl games in recent years. Going down the list, you mentioned Air Force One. UConn lost again, this time to Boise State, a good team from the Mountain West Conference, 38-21. Western Kentucky lost in 3 overtimes to Middle Tennessee. 2 good teams, and that must have been an exciting game for them. Army will be going out to Western Kentucky late in the season, and Fordham really dominated Rhode Island, 54-7. That is an indication Rhode Island's program is struggling, but a much better Fordham team than we saw at Michie Stadium a couple of years ago. And as you said, Navy won their game at Texas State, and a lot of eyes will be watching, see how Keenan Reynolds recovers from that knee injury. They will be hosting Rutgers this week, a team that lost a really tough game in the last minutes to Penn State. And it's just before they go on an incredible streak where they're going to be playing teams like Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska back-to-back. It's going to be a real introduction to the Big Ten for Rutgers coming up. And Navy this weekend is going to be a tough game down in Annapolis. So there's some of the matchups this week. Buffalo will be hosting Norfolk State. Stanford will be at Washington. Wake Forest will be where all our eyes are on as they host the Black Knights. And Yale will open up against Lehigh. We'll be up there at the Yale Bowl. I'm really looking forward to going up there a week from Saturday for that game. I haven't been to the Yale Bowl in a long time. Ball State is at Toledo, and Rice has gets a breather. They get to play Old Dominion, which should be a little easier for them considering the schedule they've had so far. Kent State, another tough game at Virginia, and Air Force will be at Boise State. That's a real tough test for Air Force. Connecticut will be another game, a tough game for them. South Florida, Western Kentucky. Their next game is in 2 weeks as they go down to Navy. And Fordham will be opening up the Ivy League season for Columbia. So it's going to be interesting this weekend.
And Ken, talking about some of the other schools that we follow, Coast Guard had a great victory last week where the Bears roared back to win the Secretary's Cup against the Merchant Marine Mariners. They won 42-31. And the great thing is they have a sophomore quarterback who is one of the great names that I think we'll ever see in sports, Derek Victory. Derek Victory threw for 3 touchdown passes in the second half, 2 of them to Jordan Groff. And, with a name like that, it's hard to say that this is not an exciting story.
Okay, and our eye is going to be down at Wake Forest. It's a 3:30 start at BB&T Field in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, as Army takes on Wake Forest. We're going to have our reporter, one of our good friends, one of our correspondents, Colonel Sam Houston, is going to be at the game for us, taking photos and filing reports. And so look at West Point Football Report on Facebook, and as we get some reports in, we will pass those along. Interesting, stats in this game. Army is it's a chance to open up on their running game. So far they're averaging 269 a game. Wake Forest has only averaged 22 yards a game. I mean, I think everybody's seen that stat has wanted to double-check it, but they have really struggled their running game.
Yes, and as we pointed out, the Wake Forest defense, though, is very, very stingy against runs. However, it's a freshman-dominated defense. This can be a team that can be forced to make penalties. This can be a team that can exploit you can exploit mistakes against. So I think that the rush, the discipline from Army, I think this is going to be a huge difference maker in this game. I think Army's going to win by more than a touchdown.
Well, I tend to agree with that, John. I think Army's veteran experience, having a experienced junior quarterback in Angel Santiago, actually senior, I'm sorry, and then all the runners in the backfield, Larry Dixon, Terry Baggett, and Ray Maples. I think this could be a game. Everyone's waiting for Ray Maples to open up. This may be his game to show the speed. And also, he's the guy who caught a couple of passes for important third downs against Buffalo.
Absolutely. Maples is one of the great comeback stories. Injured in the third game last year after rushing for more than 1,000 yards in his first 2 seasons. He came back nicely, caught passes totaling for more than 80 yards in the first game of the year, and rushed also for more than 60 yards. This is a guy who's coming back. He's worked very hard to rehabilitate himself from the injuries. I fully expect that he's going to have a very nice game on Saturday.
And it's a chance for the Army defense to show what it can do, come back off what I think everyone said was a very competitive performance against Stanford. Stanford, one of the best offensive teams in the country. Army bent, but they didn't really break during the game. So I think this is a chance for the Army defense to show, especially for the young linebackers, Timp and King in the inside, to show what they've learned in the first 2 games of the year. And then for the Army offense, I guess the struggle has really been the health of the offensive line and the players getting experience. As Coach Munkin said, Matt Hugenberg, the center, has only played 2 games at center in his varsity career. He'd been playing other offensive line positions. Stephen Shoemaker, the senior, is the only one who's been started for Army before this. And they've had some injuries. So I think that's what Army is looking at trying to improve is the experience level and the play of its offensive line in front of all those seniors in the backfield.
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at the experience that Army has, looking at how the Demon Deacons played last week, this is an opportunity. The Demon Deacons had 3 turnovers last week. This is just a great chance for Army to get on a winning record, to get that road win that they've been so seeking, and it puts them in a great run in position to make themselves bowl eligible. This is one of those games you and I think, both believe is necessary if Army hopes to compete in a postseason bowl. They have to win this game, and I think they will.
Well, I think this is an opportunity for them to get off to a very strong start on the season, having won Buffalo, which is a game that we were concerned about because Buffalo came in as a very good team. We knew Stanford was going to be tough. This is again, one of those games. I thought last year, the game at Michie Stadium, Army kind of had a hangover last year from the Stanford game. They really looked like they didn't play their best, and Wake Forest came in and won a game that we kind of expected Army to play better in.
That's exactly right. Wake Forest won 25-11 last year. Army would get into the red zone 4 times last year, but they only were able to get 1 touchdown out of it. The Demon Deacons got into the red zone 4 times, got it inside the 24 times. They scored all 4 times. So this is a huge difference, and they were taken out last year by the preceding game. They were just totally physically demolished. And this year, I think it's a different story. I think that you'll see that the weight that the Army team put on this year will be a huge difference maker as the season goes on, especially this weekend.
Okay, one other event up at West Point. The West Point Band has a major concert this weekend on Sunday night at the Eisenhower Hall. They're hosting the German Air Force Band, and it should be quite nice. I know they've been doing a lot of preparation on that concert, and Colonel Keene is just back from a trip to Japan where he performed with an orchestra, and also the Hellcats, the drum segment of the West Point Band, was in Edinburgh, Scotland for the military tattoo and some other performances, which is a major honor for them. So that, just check the West Point Band website for the details on that concert on Sunday night at Eisenhower Hall. It's a free concert, but go and check the directions, and I think they have some tickets that you can print out right there. So, John, Saturday, 3:30, Army at Wake Forest. It should be an interesting game. And as
ESPN3.
On ESPN3, your final thoughts on that?
Just like I say, I think Army by more than a touchdown. I think that in this case, veteran leadership, veteran experience, this will beat a team that is dominated by freshmen and sophomore and a brand new coach. I think that Wake Forest in the future may be a stronger team, but this year they're vulnerable, and this year Army will win.
Well, I agree. I think this is where the senior leadership on both sides of the ball for Army really has to stand up and take charge and play the kind of game that I know Jeff Monken and everyone at the Academy feels that they're capable of. So, John Chuhran, thank you for your help with the show tonight.
Thank you, Ken.
And this is a West Point Football Report. You can watch this on Facebook and also audio on Blog Talk Radio. We'll have a show on Sunday night on Blog Talk Radio recapping the Wake Forest game and a chance to call in and talk about that. We want to thank Warren Rosenberg for joining us, the provost at the College of Westchester, for talking about all the ways that school is helping America's veterans, especially those here in Westchester County. And so this is Ken Kraetzer for the West Point Football Report, and we look forward to seeing the game Army at Wake Forest. Good night.